want to welcome and thank Nica the proposal manager and account lead for the federal civilian at Agile Defense. And she's also a graduate of the ACT-IAC Associates 2020 Leadership Development Program, where we had the great privilege to interact last year. So Nica, I really want to welcome you to the podcast and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
So for those who haven't had a chance to spend some time with you, describe a bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, where you work, and who you are.
Yeah, so Nica, like Jeremy said, I am the account lead and a proposal manager at Agile Defense. My background, I was born and raised in the Philippines. I actually graduated high school at the age of 15 and moved to Virginia and went straight to community college. I know that I'm in the IT field now, but I actually started out in the nursing program, like most Filipinos do actually. And from then, since I graduated when I was 15, I wasn't allowed to take the core classes because I was so young. So I took nursing up until I was 18, and then I switched to IT. So I took IT classes at Nova, and then I went on to graduate with a bachelor's degree in computer science at Fairfax University. So since then, I've actually worked for several companies, actually worked for a startup developing mobile applications, but more focused on the business development and marketing side. And then I went on to switch over to more of the government contracting industry and worked for about 3 companies. And now I'm at Agile Defense.
Wow, that's interesting. So how did you know that you wanted to switch from nursing to IT? What made you kind of consider that changeover?
Well, there are several factors. First of all, I realized that I hated blood.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. I just didn't enjoy the classes as much. And switching to IT, I think, was easy because just growing up as a kid, several factors like computer games or editing your MySpace profile using HTML, just small things like that I've always enjoyed. So I think moving to IT was sort of an easy decision as well.
So now, how was that start for you? I mean, so coming out of college, you certainly had the degree, which is helpful. Was it difficult to get started in a career?
I say that it was just because, as an immigrant, I think that finding a job was difficult in that aspect. And I think that, I don't know if you remember, we did a service event during the
Upwardly Mobile.
Yeah, Upwardly Global. That event was very interesting to me because I get to personally help out other immigrants such as myself, help out with their resumes and try to help land jobs. So I think in that aspect, it was difficult getting into or finding a job, even though, as an immigrant, we have, the skill sets, the education that's needed. It's just finding that right employer that will take a chance on us and be able to sort of sponsor us into finding a job.
Interesting. That is a uniqueness, and there are a lot of people in the IT field who have to go through that. I think I've met a lot of immigrants in the IT fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it is difficult in that aspect.
So once you got that, is it once you get that first sponsorship, things get easier, or is that something you still have to struggle with when you change jobs as well?
It really depends. It is a case by case basis. Now it's a lot easier for me to switch over. I'm a green card holder now, permanent resident. So it's a lot easier to find jobs. But I think always landing that first job is more difficult. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in your experience in getting your career started, what's something you might have observed that if somebody came to you, Nica, and said, "Hey, Nica, you get to make a decision on something we're going to change for the better," what would that be for you in terms of just how difficult or something you observed in the process of getting started in your career?
So, like I mentioned, my actual first job straight out of college after getting my computer science degree, I was actually doing proposal graphics proposal graphics were an IT company. So as far as my role now as a proposal manager, I think like most other proposal managers that I know, we just got pulled into doing proposals. And after that, proposal graphics, I went on and got assigned to working on RFIs. And then next thing you know, I was working on a proposal. And being a proposal manager is pretty difficult because of the deadlines and the hours. And I think one thing that I would change is a work-life balance, especially as a young professional. I think that you associate hard work and progressing through your career with overtime hours or working as hard as you can within any given time, trying to kill yourself just to get like some sort of promotion or just advance in your career. But, you know, after a few years, you know, I've learned that that's not always the case. And it's actually better for you or earlier on in your career, and for everyone who's listening who's earlier in their career, right, to really take the time to focus on yourself and to set aside hours not only for your family and friends, right? Mental health, I think, is important, but also I think, you know, setting aside time to learn and develop the skills that you need in order to get to where you want in your career. So that's something that I would change, is that culture in making sure that you have that work-life balance.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. And bet it's even harder during COVID because we tend to somehow tend to work even more because we don't have to commute.
Yes, that's true. I think early on during COVID, it was hard for me because hours were strange. I mean, I don't need to, like you said, I don't need to commute, so I can work from this amount of hours. And there was just no start date and end date, and I was working overtime. But my company has been really good as far as making sure that everyone has the resources that they need, and making sure that, you know, we're all just sticking to, you know, either the 8 hours or take a break whenever you need to in order to focus on yourself.
That's good. So where do you see yourself going? What's your plan?
That's a good question. Because knowing how I am very interested in multiple things. Business, IT. Right now, with proposal management, you know, it's like a love-hate relationship. I personally love proposals, and everyone thinks I'm crazy for it. But I see myself doing proposal management for a while, but also getting into project management as well, and hopefully dabbling in more of the operation side. Right now, I'm also actually studying to get my user experience design certificate from Google. So I'm hoping to do more of that, because that's something that I've actually always wanted to do right after college. So, and I've always done graphic design as well. So hopefully that will be a happy marriage into something that I would eventually want to do long term.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. And user experience is definitely an expanding area right now, where people are finally taking a, you know, really looking at it and going, no, this is important, not just from just like normal usability for somebody like myself or you, but even from an accessibility perspective. I mean, just the wide ranges of considerations that are now out there that I would say in my career hasn't been focused on as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also meshes well with my personality of being very empathetic, and making sure that the user is, you know, the number one priority. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Nica, thank you for joining me today. It's been really great to hear more about you and your background, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thank you so much.